happy Valentine's Day. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are discussing the hero complex. So let's jump right into it. As you can see in our little small clip of montage today, we saw Superman always running into fires. We saw him leaping over buildings. We saw him doing the most. And growing up, watching this cartoon, we thought that Superman was the greatest person alive. But as an adult, I can look back and saw that Superman was basically a people pleaser. Yes, the things that Superman did made him a people pleaser in the sense that Superman didn't have any boundaries. He didn't have any boundaries with Lois Lane. She needed major boundaries, okay? Lois Lane didn't have any boundaries, and she needed some major boundaries in place when it came to her little, what we would call them, her little escapades and her little snooping around to get information in her detective work. But really, Lois Lane played the victim a lot of the times because she knew that Superman would run in and save the day the minute she yelled Superman, right? Because you know Superman had supersonic hearing, so he could hear her from miles away. And in my opinion, Lois Lane was just very controlling and she was very manipulative. Superman was a superhuman being, yes, that's true, but he also had weakness, and that weakness was to the element kryptonite. And I think as sometimes we as people pleasers, we don't realize that we are also human beings, and that we just like Clark Kent, Superman, that had weaknesses. We also have weaknesses, and we have to be so very mindful of the things that we can handle and the things that we take onto ourselves. We can't become like Superman and run into fire and to leap over buildings and to stop speeding trains. We are not superhuman like Superman. We have a lot of weaknesses. When our bodies become so stressed out, we are prone to illnesses. Why? Because our immune system does not work under a lot of stress. So if you are taking on more than you can handle, more than you can do it in the guise of being the savior for everyone in your family, in your job places, among your friend groups, it's time for you to reevaluate your life and realize that you are not a superhuman being. And just like Superman had weakness to kryptonite, we as human beings have weaknesses as well. As a child, we looked up to Superman because of all the powers that we had. All the powers that he had and all of the powers that he displayed. But as adults, we can look back and realize that Superman needed to put some boundaries in place. I can compare Superman to my other favorite character, which is growing up, which was Batman. Batman was in charge of saving the city of Gotham. Unlike Superman, Batman didn't rush into every little situation that Gotham had. Batman allowed the officials of the city of Gotham to take care of whatever was happening. When they needed Batman, then they would set up the back signal, right? And then Batman would then he would come to the rescue. I was escaping me. Then he will come to the rescue. Superman, on the other hand, as soon as he heard a cry or he smelled a little smoke or whatever, he rushed right into it. Not knowing that a lot of times the situation that he encountered were traps. I forgot his nemesis. I think it was Lex Luthor. A lot of times these situations were crisis. They were actually trap set for him by his enemy. Batman, on the other hand, had boundaries. Batman had a work-life balance. Batman, you see him when he was not saving the city of Gotham. What Batman was found doing, he was always in some party, child. So Batman was like, he was an ultimate playboy. He was always at some party, at some event, doing something. He was in his study reading, and he had his butler, I think his name was Alfred, taking care of him. Batman had boundaries. Batman didn't go out rushing at every situation. You didn't see Batman climbing up a tree to save a cat like Superman. Superman rushed up to the tree to save a little kitty. Why? A cat, as they said, has 9 lives. I don't know how true it is, but they said a cat has 9 lives. Me, from experience growing up in the islands and seeing cat go up in a tree and up there crying for mother, meow meow, up in the tree crying. After a while, and they see no one is coming and get it, guess what? That cat finds a way to come down. And it's the same way in our lives. There are people constantly crying for bloody murder and the slightest inconvenience, knowing that we, the people pleasers, the saviors, the little heroes, gonna run in and save the day. It's 2025. It's time for us to sit back and relax and relieve yourself of that guilt that we were talking about in last week, because the guilt is gonna come. Guilt is gonna try and get you to rush into situation unprepared. Guilt is gonna make you feel as if to say you're abandoning others. Well, that's not the truth. If someone asks for help and it's in your capacity to help them, then you can help them. But if it's a small, minor inconvenience that they can walk out for themselves, you have to allow others to walk through their own life situations on their own. Because why? It's going to help them to grow as well. You as a person, as we said in last week's video, you are also going to grow as well. When we compare Batman and we compare Superman, we saw the differences. Both of them were superheroes, but one of them had boundaries. Batman had boundaries and Superman didn't. We can't be like Superman. We can't have the savior complex. This is what psychology called it. The savior complex, or the white knight syndrome, where you feel as if to say you are someone knight in shining armor. We're not living in the 16 and 1500s when we had the knights and all these people going into battle. And truth be told, if these knights had a choice, they would not have done it. There's no damsel in distress like in the Cinderella stories for the knight to go in riding on his little steed to save the day. No, there's none of that today. You have to set boundaries in place, whether others like it or not, set others in place. And come out of that Superman complex where you feel as if to say you have to save the day for every Tom, Dick, and Harry when you really don't. All you have to do is chill out and relax and realize that some situations are not emergencies. And if there is an emergency, there is a department for that. There's the police department, there's the fire department, and there's also the ambulance. And each of these departments covers a variety of different situations, but they are equipped to handle emergencies. If someone doesn't ask you for that help, don't go out of your way just to please others, just to say that you are a helpful person, just to say that you are nice. When you're showing that you are nice, you're saying that you're obligated to do something. You are not obligated to do anything. It's coming from a place of fear. It's coming from a place from childhood where you may not have had a lot of control of the things that was taking place in your environment. Now you have to tell yourself, I'm an adult and I have control to a certain extent to what goes on in and through my life and around my life. You have control by placing boundaries in place. The Bible tells us that we're not supposed to be men pleasers. We're not supposed to do anything in this earth just because it's gonna please someone else. The only person that we are truly supposed to please is God. Once God is satisfied with our life, then we can breathe a sigh of relief. Everyone else around us and everything else around us is on a needs basis. It's not everything we have to dip our hand in. It's not every situation that we are called to handle. Some situations we are just to look upon them and learn lessons. When we dip our hands into situations that has nothing to do with us because we want to be the savior and we want to be the hero in everyone else's story, we are causing undue stress and chaos in our lives. And the Bible tells us that we are to love others as we love ourselves. God doesn't want us to sacrifice our health and our strength in the name of helping others, in the name of being our brother's keeper. No, that is not what God means when he tells us to love our neighbors. We have to love our neighbors. That is completely correct. But the way in which we love our neighbors should also shed some love on ourselves. Meaning, we can't love our neighbors at the expense of ourselves, at the expense of our health, at the expense of our mental well-being, even at the health of our spiritual lives. Many times we are so involved in so many things that we don't have the strength and the mental capacity to worship God in the way we are to worship Him. For Valentine's Day, where everyone else is outside celebrating love, I want us to love on ourselves. Look at ourselves. Really look at ourselves and see the areas where we are constantly buttoning when it's none of our business. Look at the areas in your life and see the areas where you are trying to be the savior in someone else's story. You're trying to be the Superman. I want you to draw back and take the position of being Batman. See the things that are not threatening to your welfare and your sense of security, and sit back and relax. Because we are not God. We are not the superior being. God is. And just as how God has us, you don't think God has that next person who is in crisis. Yes, we are to be our brother's keeper. But it's to an extent. We can't take over the place of God in our brethren, in our sisters' lives, in our friends' lives, in our wives. And we cannot. Sit back and allow God to do His thing in the life of your family, in the life of your community, and seek God for the areas that He wants you to put your hand in. And the things God don't want you to put your hand in, back off. Just back off and allow God to be God, because you are not superhuman. Even the superhuman had weaknesses. Batman had weaknesses as well. But that's why he had so many boundaries in place. And he didn't overextend himself into doing so much for the city of Gotham. Unless they sent out that signal, he didn't go charging. Set boundaries in place. I will see you guys in our next video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your questions in the comment box below, and I will try my best to make videos on whatever questions you may, or whatever topics you may want me to touch on. It's definitely a process of letting go of the bad habits. So we are on this journey together. I love you, my beautiful butterflies.